Should we have a clap for him? Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight for our school board meeting. Madam President couldn't be here today, so I'm filling in. So welcome to the meeting. Do we have any needs for translation services? Okay, we'll keep going. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Motion and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you very much. We will go ahead and move on to the student representative reports.
Okay, so we just finished Buff Puff, Midwinter Madness. It wasn't what the leadership expected. We could have done a lot better, but just because we were too focused on Husky for a Day, which was very successful, I loved it. I met like a person who wanted to become a student board rep one day, and it was amazing to create new connections with the 8th graders, kind of like giving them advice with what to expect at the high school or what not to do. It was very fun. We have a basketball game tomorrow. It's an elimination basketball game. It's against East Valley. We're excited for that. It's at 6 p.m. tomorrow at OHS. The CTSOs, which is all of like the CTE clubs like FFA, FCCLA, are all hosting Cupid Cinema at OHS in the main gym on Thursday, February 12th. This week we're also celebrating FCCLA week, so every week there's a new theme for each of the CTEs. It's just kind of to give them exposure what the club is. Husky Opportunity Night was on Thursday, February 5th. It was well attended, and a lot of Running Start students gave their experiences, and then we also had more exposure to what OHS offers. I don't have anything to report.
Can we have some more explanation on what Husky for a Day is?
Yes. Husky for a Day is when the 8th graders came for 2 hours, and they kind of were OHS students for the day. So what we OHS students did was we dressed up as we made a theme. For the first day it was Husky Pride, and then all OHS students wore Husky Pride, and so did the 8th graders to kind of make them feel like it. And then it consisted of an assembly, a tour, counselor presentation, and a Q&A and club and fair sports. So that's what it involved. It was 60 students per hour, or per, oh my gosh, 120 students a day, but then it was broken into 2 sessions a day.
Great, thank you. And wasn't there a cheerleading event this recently? Can you tell us about that?
So yeah, the cheer team, they competed this Saturday at Battleground, Washington. And we, in our category, we placed 9th place, but we still tried our best. It was a tough competition, but we put our blood, sweat, and tears into everything, and it was a really good experience. So I'm glad to have experienced it, and I'm glad we all got to do competitive cheer because this is our first year, and this is our first time going to state, which is just a huge accomplishment. So I'm very proud of it.
You said it was the first time we sent a team to this, right?
Yeah.
So you're making history then. Awesome. Anything else for student rep report?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you so much.
I just want to provide one clarification. There is a basketball game tomorrow. I believe it's the girls' game, which will be away at Toppenish High School, it looks like. And then the boys' game is on Wednesday at 6 p.m. home. So there are 2 games, so you got it right. But in case you want to watch our boys play at home, that'll be Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to our recognition. So we'll turn the time over to Dr. Perez.
Yeah, I'd just like to invite Carlos Gonzalez, the District Athletic Director and Director of Student Engagement, to come forward and have some special guests here this evening.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me on this? Thank you for having me here tonight to be able to recognize our wrestling team. Over the years, as you guys are aware, Othello Wrestling has always had the amazing tradition of just strong wrestling throughout the state of Washington here in Othello. But also it's evolved where girls have a very active presence in wrestling too, and they are continuing to build on the amazing wrestling tradition that we have in our community. So at this time, before I go in to share how our teams are doing, I'd like to invite our teams up. We'll have our girls here on my left with head coach Sammy Rocha, and invite Ruben Lopez, our head coach for the boys, and the boys out this way on my right. What I'm going to do is just share how we're doing so far this season. It's been wrestling is hard, for one. A lot of sports are hard, but the wrestling season is long and hard, and injuries happen. But through everything that our kids go through, they persevere. They have that mental toughness. They show grit, and they step up to the challenge. So ladies first, what we have so far for the girls this season, they have a 7-1 CWAC dual record, currently ended up in second place in the CWAC behind Toppenish. They were the Eastmont Lady Cats Kickoff Classic champions, team champions. They also won the Kennewick Lioness Wrestling Tournament as champions. They placed third at the Hammerhead Wrestling Tournament in Bremerton. The Pac Coast Tournament, they were also team champions. The Braided 64 in 15th place in Kelso. The Bring Home the Beef Quincy, that's the name of the tournament, Bring Home the Beef. In Quincy, 6th place. The Lady Huskies Invitational, 7th. Washington 2A State Duels, 2nd place, and they're currently, according to Washington State Wrestling, and I mean like coaches and other people, insiders in the sport, have us currently ranked first in state going into the postseason. But what I always say, and the coaches would agree, anything can happen in the postseason. So it's just rankings. We appreciate it. We love the reputation, but we still have to get out there and finish and represent. And what's interesting too is that of the top 10 schools in the state, 5 of them are CWAC schools. That just shows how tough the CWAC is when it comes to wrestling, for girls wrestling. Othello being ranked 1, Toppenish 2, Ephrata 3, Grandview 4, and Quincy 6. And so we have amazing competition here in our league to keep us sharp. Speaking for the boys, they are 6-2 CWAC dual record, currently tied for 2nd place in the CWAC. Deer Park Invitational, 3rd place. Leonard Schutte Memorial Tournament team champions. They also participated in the amazing Tri-State Tournament, which is probably the toughest tournament in the entire Northwest. The Raleigh Lane, we had Mason Russell participate in the Raleigh Lane. It's a 64-man bracket, and that's incredibly difficult too in Boise. He had that experience. The Rumble in the Valley is probably one of the toughest tournaments we have in the state here in Prosser, in the Valley, and we placed 3rd place there. They were 2nd place at the Matt Animal in Quincy. They earned 2nd place in the Washington 2A State Duels, and are currently ranked 3rd in Washington State behind Ording and Toppenish. And in the CWAC, there are 3 schools ranked in the top 10, Toppenish 1, Othello 3, and Sela 5. And so these guys and ladies are keeping the tradition alive here in Othello, doing an amazing job. They're getting ready to go into the postseason with districts. The girls are going to be in Grandview, the boys in Toppenish. These are 2-day tournaments where wrestling begins at 3-4 in the afternoon, and it'll go till 9:30 at night, with weigh-ins, having to report for weigh-ins at 7 a.m. for an 8 a.m. weigh-in the next day, and then they do it all over again that next day. So I'm going to hand it over to our head coaches so that they introduce who their wrestlers are and answer any questions that you might have.
So I have three lovely ladies here with me. Sometimes they're lovely, other times they're not. But I have seniors, Angie Monday right now. She's probably ranked #1 in the state of Washington. Last year finished 3rd in the state. I have our little Janisa Barrera. She's our little 100-pounder. And right now she is just about as fast as anybody can. You don't want to mess with Janisa's speed right now. She's probably like peaking as far as like speed. And this one is Briseida Galvez. Now what you don't know about Briseida is she had her appendix removed right at the end of November, and she took about 4 or 5 weeks off, and ever since then we brought her back in, and she's just been grinding to get back in shape. She's lost 10 pounds? Yeah. She lost about 10 pounds to get back into, she's back into wrestling shape. She placed 6th in the state of Washington last year, and now that her appendix is removed, we're ready to roll. So.
All right, for the boys, I have Xavier Olascon. He's down at the end. He's 4-year senior. Last year was a state alternate. This year, I believe he's ranked 6th right now. Next to him is Camilo Mendez, the 3rd. He took 2nd last year, 4th the year before, and it was a state participant as a freshman. Currently ranked 5th, I think. Then next to him is Mason Russell. Mason Russell, as a freshman, took 3rd. Sophomore took 5th, and then last year he took 3rd, and currently ranked 2nd. Daniel Gonzalez was state participant, 4th and 3rd, and he's currently ranked 2nd. And then Miguel Zuniga, state participant for the past 2 years, and also he's ranked 3rd right now.
Real quick. So before I hand it out to him, I just want to say thank you to the school board. I'm sure you're aware that you got us 2 new mats, and we desperately needed those mats so badly because of the junior high. They have 40 wrestlers over there. The boys have 40 or 50 wrestlers. We have 40 or 50 wrestlers, and we were all just kind of like trying to share mats, and it was very impossible. So because of your contribution, you just made life easy for us. So I wanted to say thank you. I want to start off with that.
And I think it's also important to mention that wrestling is probably one of the more expensive sports. And I mean because of the travel, the team registrations at every tournament that these guys compete in, ladies and the guys. But I would say the reason why these teams are so competitive and why they do so well is because they are very strategic about what tournaments they do participate in throughout the year. They intentionally find the toughest competition in the state to expose our kids to see the best competition out there so that it'll best prepare them for February when it matters the most. So aside, from getting through injuries and getting through a long wrestling season, what we also try to do is we host a tournament. I think it's also important to just say thanks to the community of Othello who has volunteered their time and effort to contribute to the Leonard Schutte Memorial that we host in December, where those team registrations help support the team funding to be able to travel because lodging is expensive and so is the travel itself. We hosted the Lady Huskies Invitational 2 or 3 weeks ago where we had 46 teams come to Othello High School on 7 mats. And so we also host the 2A, the Washington State Coaches Association, Wrestling Coaches Association 2A state dual tournament as well. And back-to-back weekends, hosting back-to-back weekends it's hard. But I'm really grateful to the community of Othello, obviously the support that we get from our school district, but especially the community that we have, especially around wrestling, to volunteer their time, to take care of the hospitality room with the table help that we do get, and just to make everything run smoothly. It's a beast, and we did it 3 times in a season with the Leonard Schutte Lady Huskies and the 2A state duels. And so all of that to support our kids in the program and to raise the money that it requires so that our kids can see the best competition in the state. And so thank you to the board, thank you to the community of Othello for all your support. And it just seems appropriate that we would like to have all of our teams here, but we're talking 20 to 28 kids that are going to districts on each team, so we wouldn't have enough space in here, so we thought it appropriate to invite our seniors to represent each team. So thank you to our teams, and we wish them the best of luck this weekend in Grandview and Toppenish. And if the board has any questions, you're welcome to ask our head coaches or the kids.
I've always heard of those interesting things that wrestlers do to make weight, but having your appendix removed is next level. So Yeah, great job. I was able to attend one of the tournaments, and it was great. There were so many teams, a lot of coordination. Thank you for all the work you do to put that together. I know Director Pernetta was there and got to do some of the behind-the-scenes work, too. So what did you see at these tournaments?
Just for me, it was amazing to see the community all come together, come out and watch you guys support. It's always fun. Let's just, I'll be honest, I'm kind of biased. I've got to see every one of your guys' coaches wrestle once in my life, and I know how hard it is to cut weight to try to make it, and it's a long season. So if Birdie will let me, with all of them, I'd like to donate. When you guys get back, I'll feed all you guys, both teams and their parents, and I'll see if I can get Classic going to cater, and I'll take care of it, because I know it's a long season for you guys. You guys don't get to eat.
Mac and cheese sound okay?
But hey, great luck out there. I hope you guys do well, and I know that Othello's supporting you guys. So.
Yeah, and can I just ask a question? Since I know I don't know anything about wrestling. Sweat and slings. That's what I know. If you were to tell somebody who didn't know anything about wrestling, what skills do you learn on the mat that you would bring to your life?
You guys are always out there.
I would say just work hard. I don't know. It's very tough. Like, it's very tough, and it's not for everyone. So you have to be like mentally brave and everything.
I would say to not give up either. You know, it helped me not on the mat, but off the mat too. It's mentally, you have to pass it, and you know, it's helped me through a lot.
I think it's like helped me stay composed, and like even through the losses, you know, you just got to have that grit and, you know, just go through it, and it just helps me like not give up too.
What do you guys think?
Well, I'd say that wrestling teaches you, for me as a young man, is to understand the grit and be mentally and physically tough. And I feel like starting wrestling as a freshman, never wrestled my entire life, I felt like I was just like prey. I didn't win a single match my freshman year. And, you know, it shows you how to be tough physically and mentally. It's something that I've always will stick with me, and it's something that I will always remember as I grow on to become a young man. So I feel like those two things are something that I've learned.
Well, with wrestling, it's mostly like a mental sport. It's hard, but most of the time everybody's like freaking out and like having like a heart attack basically. And so it's really taught me how to stay, like as she said, composed and mentally like tough, and how to just try hard.
Like Vale said, it definitely teaches you to be mentally tough, mentally disciplined, because you got to learn how to push through. But it also teaches you both how to be self-reliant and work together with other people.
Wrestling taught me just hang in there. Last year, districts, I lost in the semis, and I was down mentally. And then the next week, I made the state final. So just keep on working at it, and that's just never give up.
Wrestling taught me how to get beat up and then get back up and try harder, and not get beat up the next time.
What else?
That's it.
Thank you.
I do want to add one point. I was not a wrestler. I wrestled in middle school, but I had too many other talents, and I just couldn't spend the time in wrestling. But I met a friend in my principal program 15 or 16 years ago, and he was a high school wrestler. And I thought he had the best description, and they shared some of it. Part of it is that you are part of a team. We're meeting teams tonight. But you're out there by yourself, under a light, with very little clothing on. And wrestling exposes you at your weakest moments when you lose, and when you win, and how you react as a winner. And those experiences, when you think about your roles as employers or employees, When the light's shining on you, are you ready? When things don't go your way, how do you react? When you win, do you not celebrate too much? There's so many good lessons to be learned in the wrestling room, and these are really fine examples of kids learning those lessons. So it's true of most sports, but wrestling is unique in that way in the high school experience. So thanks for representing us so well.
And so to finish, and again, thank you for this opportunity to acknowledge and recognize our kids and the amazing work that they've done this season. But I also have to thank our coaches. There's so much time and effort and planning and just perseverance through a season everything that can happen in a season. You know, I'm so thankful to have these guys as head coaches and that represent our program in the best way possible. It's not just putting a good, tough team out. It's doing it the right way, and they are doing that. And so thank you to our coaches. And something to add on to what all of our kids talked about, it's really preparing them for life too. Wrestling teaches them a lot about life, and something Wayne Schutte always taught me was just, he kept saying pressure forward, pressure forward. And so no matter what life throws at you, you just keep pressuring forward, and that's something I'm still trying to do today. And so wrestling will do that to you. But again, thank you for the opportunity to highlight it and celebrate our kids, and we wish them the very best in this postseason coming up this weekend and next weekend at state. Thank you.
We'd love to take a picture before you go, and welcome anybody unless you're not a Seahawks fan.
Thank you.
Best of luck in the weeks ahead to our wrestlers.
Yes.
Thank you for being here.
We just did them a favor. They sat here and didn't have to go home and eat. I'm pretty sure they want to.
Okay, great. We'll go ahead and move on to board member discussion. I do have some legislative stuff, but before that, I did want to mention I was able to go to the McFarland Career Fair, and there was a ton of people there. There was a lot of community members there. Every classroom was full of someone presenting for the students. It was really great to see the community, willing to take time out of their day, out of their workday to be there. Will, do you know how many people we had there? There was a lot of people.
I don't know.
Yeah, but all the classrooms were full of people there to present for the students, and yeah, it was great to see the community step up for that. I did want to mention legislative reports. So the session is moving right along. Of course, the millionaire's tax was proposed last week, so that'll be interesting to see where that goes. But they keep telling us that even if it does pass, that we wouldn't see anything until 2029, correct? So we'll see where that goes. Some of the deadlines have already passed for the policy committee and the fiscal committee. So any policy and fiscal bills that haven't made it past that mark are now dead, and so we only see the ones that have made it past and are going to move forward. The WASDA is still pressuring any bills with unfunded mandates. For example, there's one bill right now that's kind of going through about requiring schools to include a financial literacy portion to your graduation requirements, which is great, but it does become an unfunded mandate because it requires schools to do something. It requires them to spend money to do this. And so that's one that WASDA is actually opposing. Another thing that has had some attention is the substitute bill that they passed last year. At the time, they said it was going to exclude education services from that, but it didn't. And so now they're trying to go back and fix that for education. And that's actually making some progress. It's looking good for that one, so we're excited about that. So yeah, the session is moving right along. Those are my main updates I had for that. Any questions about any of those? Okay, anything else also for board member discussion, we were going to talk about the school board workshop, correct?
And maybe it's appropriate to wait till we have our other two board members. There are some items in superintendent informational items that I'll touch on, but they're just to prompt your thinking and to get feedback on, so nothing that needs to be approved or determined tonight, so we can save it till that piece.
We had a school board workshop this last week. All the school board members were there, and all of the district office team was there, and it was really helpful for all of us. And like Dr. Perez said, we'll be sharing some of the goals and changes that we talked about in that meeting in the coming weeks. Anything else for school board discussion?
No, I was just, are we still all set still for April for the SBA?
Yeah, as far as I know.
We're still moving forward with that, yes.
That's in Houston?
San Antonio, I believe.
In San Antonio. That'll be in April, our national school board conference. Okay. If there's anything else for school board discussion, we'll go on to required approvals. Can I get a motion to approve the required approvals?
All motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you very much. We will move on to superintendent informational items. Dr. Perez.
Yeah, two items listed there, two documents in response to the conversation that occurred at the board workshop. Those two documents are related to, the first one would be a flexible school calendar, school board meeting calendar. And I know some conversation came as one of your goal areas in continuing to strengthen the partnership, particularly with the city of Othello, as maybe our first effort into thinking more carefully about partnerships in our community. There are some options presented there. Those aren't all the options available to us, certainly, and maybe we just stick with what we have and get more creative about who represents the school district at these particular events. But there's some draft items for you to look at, and I think when we get the full board together in the coming weeks, we'll reference this document, and it'll cycle back as we develop the agenda with Lindsay and with Aaron and put those items on there. So just some things for you to consider and think about. The second item is really a summary of the experience from a goal-setting perspective. I know there was some interest from the board to come up with some self-improvement goals based on this self-assessment that you took. And so this is just our first shot at what we heard, what we thought we heard you say, and again, a chance to review it and think about what you see there, and then have a broader public discussion about those items at a future board meeting. Again, information for you to see, information for the community to see, and perhaps provide you feedback around in the coming weeks, and then we'll cycle back to it at a later board meeting. Okay?
Thank you again to Dr. Perez and Marissa and our administrative team for putting that together. It was super helpful, and we're looking forward to the things that are going to come from that. Anything else for superintendent informational items? Okay, we will go ahead and move on to the preschool board report.
You're going to need some more chairs, Jennifer?
Well, thank you for this opportunity to share with you a little bit about School District Preschool. I have Paula Lang, who is the early childhood instructional coach. And then Nikki Wilkins, who's the district multilingual coach. A lot of time this year working with. She spent a lot of time this year working with, last year and this year working with preschool. So I've asked her to share some of her work with you tonight also. So I have it, sorry. So the first slide is just kind of a little bit of history about preschool. So in 16-17, that was before I took over as the early childhood director. So we were at the building that is just right across the street from Scootney. We had one classroom. They had 3 sessions, so they had 25 kids in each session. So we had one classroom. They serviced about 75 kids, and then we had 2 special ed classrooms with certified teachers and a para in each one, and then we had an OT specialist and a speech pathologist. I took over in 17-18, and every year from there we have kind of built up our program. So we currently have 5 certified teachers that teach our what's called transitional kindergarten classes. Those are full-day classes. We have 3 half-day classes. One of them is at Ludokaga, and that's our dual language class. And then we have the other ones are at we call it the preschool village right there behind MMS. So before the first year I came on staff, I started, I had 14 staff members, and we've increased over the time that we now have 31 staff members. All of our classes have increased. Our special ed, we still only have 2 classrooms though, even though our special ed numbers have increased every year. But yeah, we've grown quite a bit. We went from about 75 students to, in our gen ed classes, we have about 176, but total, including our special ed, we have almost 210, just over 200 students right now currently. So we've grown quite a bit in the last 8 years. This is just a snapshot of what our current staffing is. We are mainly staffed with paraprofessionals. Some of them are what we call lead paras. So they take the lead in the classroom. They're almost like the teacher, and then the other para supports them. And then in our special ed classrooms and in our transitional classes, we have certified teachers. We went from just having a secretary. We also now have a parent coordinator, and then Paula came on as our instructional coach. This is just a statement from what's called NAEYC, the National Association for Education of Young Children, about just the importance of what kind of a center you're running. Whether you have an in-home daycare or preschool program, or a site-based program, a school-based program, this is what the National Association says leads to a quality program. Is it developmentally appropriate? Is it hands-on? Are you allowing children to explore and to wonder and to find joy in those experiences? So this is kind of just also where did we start. So in 16-17, we traveled to Harlem, to what was called the Harlem Children's Zone. And one of the books that we were asked to read before we went was called The 30 Million Word. And it's about the 30 million word gap between children that are raised in poverty or second languages versus children that come from homes where they have lots of exposure, lots of experience, and just the gap that is created from the time that they're born. And so we visited the Harlem Children's Zone. A group of us went. Paul was part of that. Pete was part of that. And some other community members and some other members of the school district. And just a couple of things from that book is, again, just talking about the word gap and then how important is having a rich language exposure. So not even just reading to your kids, that is a huge part of it, but also even just the talking to your kids and the exposure of hearing that language, no matter what language it is that parents are speaking or family members are speaking, but how that plays into all areas of their life, not just reading, but so many other important factors. So this is just kind of some of the why behind why we feel that early child education is important, to give kids kind of that boost or that jump start into getting ready for not just kindergarten, but their whole K-12 journey. So we're cultivating the building blocks. So those are the foundational skills, not just the academic skills, but their social emotional skills, their adaptive skills, their physical skills, all those skills that are important to develop. Inspiring lifelong learners, so starting them on a journey where they enjoy it, they find delight, that wonder, that excitement about school. Ensuring school readiness, so kind of preparing that groundwork. Again, those foundational skills are going to get them ready to find success on their journey through K-12 education, but then also beyond that. And then laying the future foundation, just finding that success and the joy in that process. So at preschool, these are kind of the areas that we have focused on to closing that achievement gap, closing that language gap, and getting kids ready for kindergarten. So we focus a lot on social emotional skills. We've always focused on language and literacy, but the last 2 years we've really taken a heavy focus on language because the district had 3 goals that we have was focused around feedback, professional learning communities, and then our multi-language learners. And so the last 2 years we've done a lot of work with Nikki around language development, of math and numeracy, their physical development, so their fine and gross motor skills, their core skills, and then their cognitive and inquiry skills. We base our instruction around the WAKIDS. So the WAKIDS is an assessment that they take in every kindergartner in Washington State has to take the WAKIDS assessment. They take it in the fall, and then they take it again in the spring before the end of the school year. And so it came about partly just because they're good standards and they're kind of develop the whole child. But also our transitional classes, our TK classes, they have to also take the WA-KIDS assessment. And so that we were all unified and all on the same page, all of our classes, whether half day or full day, follow the WA-KIDS standards. So the WA-KIDS standards have the math, the literacy, but they also have the social, emotional, the physical, and the language standards also. We're super adamant about being developmentally appropriate when we're focusing on those foundational skills, and so we make sure that all of our activities are hands-on and that they're play-based. So those are really important. If you read through the WA-KIDS standards or the NACCE standards, they're all going to talk about being developmentally appropriate. So you'll be hard-pressed to find a worksheet in our preschool classrooms. We try to make everything as much as possible something that they can hands-on, so they're really exploring and they're getting all the different senses. You know, they're touching it, they're seeing it, they're feeling it. There's all those different senses so that it really gets ingrained in them. And then being play-based, because they really are learning a ton when some people just see it as they're playing and, oh, what are they doing? What are they really learning? But that's when they're problem solving. That's when they're questioning. That's when they're exploring all those important skills. That's when they're having to communicate. They're building that language with one another. In 2018-19 is when, we really focused a lot on what did we have in a worksheet and how do we turn that into a hands-on activity. So those are just several pictures. You can see kids practicing a variety of skills, but not just getting out a paper and a pencil and completing a worksheet or a packet of worksheets. In 2019, mostly Paula did a ton of work around our curriculum, and so she developed story carts. So we have 7 now, or 9? 7? We have 7 story carts now, and these are the kindergarten standards that they align to, and those were some areas that kindergarten teachers shared with us that kids struggle to do when they come to kindergarten. They can sit, they can listen to a story, but to talk about the different parts of the story, the different elements of a story, or to retell a story, that's something that they're expected to do in kindergarten by the end of kindergarten, and so what could we do in preschool to start preparing them for those skills? So we have several story carts. Every cart has several activities that are around mathematics and numeracy. Several activities are around literacy, language, and then fine and gross motor activities to build all those skills. So Paula put a lot of time and effort. So this is just some examples from our Jack and the Beanstalk story cart. We have the 3 little pigs. We have the 3 little kittens. Again, these are just some pictures, some snapshots of some of the activities they do. We have the 3 billy goats, so we have lots of 3s because some kids to even learn to count to 3 is a really, really difficult skill. And so even getting staff to understand you don't go to 5 until they've got 3, and you don't go to 10 until they've got to 5. So we have lots of 3s. And then Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Another important part of preschool, like I mentioned before, was purposeful play, playing with a purpose, not just doing random things, but it really is intentional, and it's a time of the day when the teachers are expected, the paraprofessionals, the leads, the adults in the room are expected to be not just sitting at their desk, but engaging with the kids to really, maybe they're questioning them or helping them with the conversation piece, teaching them how to ask to take turns, or asking to wait for something, or asking for help, all those important skills. So this is just a quote. Everybody knows Mr. Rogers that says, play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning, but for children, play is serious learning. Play is really the work of childhood. And so just how important that we have anywhere from 40 to a full hour of purposeful play each day that the kids, there's different areas of the classroom that they can go and explore and engage in. I'd say probably one of the biggest things they learn probably during purposeful play is the language piece, just learning to talk to each other and how to ask questions and answer questions. So this is an example of the different stages of play that children go through from birth all the way through early childhood of learning. First, just observing their surroundings, watching other kids play, sitting next to somebody while they're playing and maybe mimicking or copying how they're playing, to trying to engage with them, and then eventually being able to actually play with another peer. And again, like I said, it's just one of the foundations for language that leads to literacy and leads to their math development. So just how important the very beginning stages of learning to communicate and to talk to one another. Even, obviously as adults, sometimes people have hard times communicating. And so just trying to give kids all those opportunities to build that language. In the earliest years of life, language lays the foundation for everything that follows: emotional resilience, cognitive growth, social connection, and academic success. So again, here's just a couple examples of students having to talk to each other, to share the manipulatives, to work together on whatever the task is. So even our shy ones, we do have some that are extremely shy in the beginning. We have some that are mute, that won't talk. But it really is our goal to get them speaking and talking to the teacher and then to their peers. So I'm going to turn the next couple of slides over to Nikki because, like I said, last year we started working with her on how we could beef up our language development with our preschoolers and how we could enhance the things that we were already doing to make it more rich for their experiences.
Hello. So last year we got together and we started discussing what they already had, like the story cards, and there's also a phonemic awareness program that they use that goes into the elementaries as well called Heggerty. And so after we visited the WABE conference, the Washington Association of Bilingual Educators, we came back understanding that there's a lot of science of reading that's always going to be applicable because it's the science of reading and it's how we learn how to read. But when we add additional instructional strategies, we're better able to help all of our students participate. And so the first year, last year, when we were working together, we were looking at those things on how to add some extra strategies or some extra visuals to ensure that all of our students would be able to participate fully and make those meaningful connections in their mind. And that goes to this visual here, where when we're trying to develop language, especially when you have multiple languages in your background, it's what we like to call comprehensible input. So there are some times where it is appropriate to translate, but in education, oftentimes when we're trying to increase their language, so we're trying to add words instead of substituting, then we want to use comprehensible input because it will help them grow their vocabulary and include English along with their home languages. And so this image was one of the first images that we discussed. Paula and I led a PLC together that first year of we need to have visuals with all the stuff that they're already doing to ensure that they understand, but then marry it with the things that they were already doing really well at, which is their playtime, right? That's the low stress opportunity that kids need in order to work really hard and make that meaningful connection in their mind. So the other part was starting to learn as a staff on what the can-do descriptors are. So WIDA is the English language development standards we use that Washington has identified as our English language development standards. And the can-do descriptors really give you an idea at this proficiency level, what can you expect the student to feel comfortable in, and gives us an idea of what do we work on next to help them to continue to grow. And so as a staff, we looked at that so that we could understand that there's 6 levels in our standards and kind of just get an idea of what does that mean, because at preschool we're going to have students at all different levels. So when we look at these standards and we see a 5 and a 6 means bridging and reaching, those are supposed to be comparable to a native English speaker, because we know our multilingual students often are developmentally on time, but their vocabulary is across multiple languages, so it looks like not as many words when you're only measuring in English. And so that kind of helps us keep this in mind, that when we are instructing in English and measuring in English, this is what they can do. Again, going back to what they had already had in place was their phonemic awareness. And so one of the first things we did was look at, okay, here's a curriculum that we know help our students get ready for kindergarten that they're going to continue using. Phonemic awareness and their ability to master some of these skills are the best predictors of writing success in 4th grade. So we knew it was an area that we wanted them to start getting really strong practice in the preschool. So Paula went ahead and took some ideas, and she took the rhyming boxes and added more visuals to it, and then also coached all of the educators on taking the script and then also adding in gestures. We talked about this at our board visit. So every building kind of has a different flavor, but Hegarty will also partner hand movements. That way students that are like, oh, the teacher's doing a lot of talking, they get coached on, oh, I remember when she does this, it means that we're going to rhyme, even if they don't understand all the directions word for word. Then we went ahead, and this year we've been really intentional on aligning the standards. Do you want to share a little bit about these?
Oh, so these are, again, they're the WAKID standards that we already assess in the spring and the fall, and then again, kindergarten assesses on these same standards, but they're specifically around language development and speaking and understanding language. And so since we already had the story cards, we had the rhyming boxes, it was then, again, like how do we even become more intentional with these standards to make sure that we're really giving kids like a high quality experience with that. And so we specifically pulled these out, and actually even our classes that are not our transitional classes, our transitional kindergarten classes, our half-day classes, they still assess on these. Also, they don't do the formal assessment that gets turned into the state, but they turn in all their results to us, and we've been tracking that data last year and then this year again to see are the things that we've been doing with Nikki and training our staff on, is it making an impact on their language development and their ability to speak with others?
So the first thing we did is Paula, Jennifer, and I, we sat down and we took the 3 little bears, and one of the things that we've learned is when students are assessed, that is the way our standards are measured, and then if we work backwards from that, we're better able to implement the instructional routines to support them to get to that finish line. So students in transitional kindergarten are provisionally qualified in our multilingual program, and they will take the WIDA screener so that we know where they're at going into kindergarten. This screener also means sometimes they don't qualify for services because their language is, they're in the 5 to 6 range, and they don't need the support of the program to have success in their learning in English, especially in a community like ours, where a lot of families are bilingual and our students have a lot of English knowledge as well as Spanish or Mixteco and Mum. The 3 little bears became the starting point, and it's continued to grow. You can see examples of how our teachers have really taken it off, and we have the 3 little kittens anchor chart in there. But most importantly, some of those skills that they're going to need to be successful. You see the students turning and talking right now, and then although our students are not necessarily reading word for word, they're starting to learn to look at those resources in order to know how to be successful, and not always depending on the teacher, but learning to depend on themselves. In fact, today, one of the TK teachers shared with me that her student wasn't necessarily reading word for word, but the teacher asked her a question, and she went up to her sentence stem and acted like the teacher and pointed to each word. And she had already memorized the script, but she was very proud of herself that she didn't have to ask the teacher to echo. She was the teacher. So it was really neat to hear the teacher being like, it's working. The teachers are also growing these opportunities, and you can see how they're starting to make it more visual. So it started off with Paula, Jennifer, and I giving them some must-dos, and then offering some may-dos, and the teachers are picking up those may-dos and adding more charts and more visuals and stuff on their own.
So that's kind of some of the steps that we've taken regarding our multilinguals. So if you're in our classrooms, you're going to see a ton of visuals, lots of pictures, lots of realia, as much as we can get realia, the real objects for them to work with, lots of manipulatives, and lots of singing and lots of gestures. So they really are working, our teachers and our staff are working really hard to make sure that kids are every way possible getting that input so that they can really develop those language skills and it can stick with them, and we can start closing that 30 million word gap. This is 4 times throughout the year we give an assessment that is a district created assessment that we've used ever since I've been in the program. They even used it before. It has changed and developed over the years to make sure that it was really aligned with the standards and what we wanted to see academically. The math skills, the reading skills, those skills that to show that kids were ready for kindergarten. And then, like I say, we also have our other part that's tied to the WA Kids that is more the motor skills, the social emotional skills, the adaptive skills, those skills. But this one is pretty academically heavy, but it's worth 100 points. We give it the 4 times a year. And so this is just showing, the blue looks black. Sorry, that bottom color is supposed to be blue, and it has really high numbers there. So what we set the benchmark as is if they've scored at least 50 points, then we feel like they are pretty ready for kindergarten. And so the green starts the 50 points and above, and then the blue, we decided if they got 70 points or above, like they were for sure really ready for kindergarten. So that's actually what the blue represented. So you can't see the blue, but between the green and the blue, we have 103 kids in January that were technically ready for kindergarten academically. And so that's about almost 60% that we're at sitting in January. So we have the next half of the year to get the other 40% ready to go to kindergarten. Anyway, those are just really good numbers and just really showing the growth that they're making. We also we'll give the WIDA screener, and then, like I say, our transitional kindergarten classes have to do the full-blown WA Kids assessment in the beginning and the end of the year. These next slides are because these aren't part of the 100-point assessment. These are the ones that are a little bit harder to have just like a set paper pencil test type to it. These are your social emotional and your cognitive skills. What you want is to be in for the end of the year preschooler on the scale that they have, you want to be at a 6. It has nothing to do with age. It's just how the scale for the WA Kids assessment is. So you can kind of see in the different categories how many of our students, this was clear back in end of October, early November when we gave this assessment, where our students were at. So for the beginning of the year, not too bad for how many kids we had in the level 6 already. So this was their social, emotional, and cognitive skills. This was their physical development, so kind of their gross and their fine motor skills. So you can see, they have to be able to jump and to skip and hop and bounce a ball, throw a ball, hold a pencil, write, those type of things. And so again, you can see how many students were in like a 5-6 range at the beginning of the school year. And then we'll give this again at the end of the year to see if we've moved more kids into that 5-6 range. And then this is their language and communication. And so again, that's been a huge focus for us this year. So again, hopefully that will be, we'll see some significant growth there also. But really not too bad for the beginning of the year. And that is what we have to share with you tonight about the things that are happening in preschool, the changes that have happened. Paula and I have been in preschool for this is year 8 for us, and we're both changing at the end of Paula's retiring at the end of the year, and I have changed positions mid-year this year. Anyway, so we just wanted to share with you some of the progress and the growth that the program has made over the last 8 years as we move on. So if you have any questions for us about any of those slides or anything regarding transitional kindergarten or preschool or special ed.
I have a question on the foundational skills. Can you give us an example on makes a good decision? What would that look like for a preschooler? What kind of decisions would they be making?
Like how do you test that?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a really good example is we say safe body. So I'm angry, I'm mad, I'm upset. So am I going to make a decision? I'm going to hit Nikki, or have I learned how to take some deep breaths to calm down and to either walk away, go get a teacher? We say, or we teach the kids to say, please stop. Mm-hmm. Please stop. And so that's telling the other kid, like, either you're bothering me or you're hurting me or I don't like that or whatever. So we teach them, please stop. We say to them all the time, safe body, safe hands, safe mouth. So if they want to say a bad word, which we have in preschool. So that's an example. Or if I want to play in that area, have we taught them how to go up to the students and not just take the toy, but to say, can I have that? And the student can reply, in a minute when I'm done, or or yes, come join me. So teaching them kind of those social skills of a lot of it is how to handle those emotions. How do I make a good choice when I have different emotions? When I'm sad, do I scream and yell, or I can go to the quiet, calming corner and settle down.
And traveling, would that be like restroom or?
No, traveling. The traveling skills are actually like jumping, hopping, skipping, walking on a balance beam. Okay. Kind of those balancing skills more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So do these numbers for the foundational skills come like a formal test, or is this just observing the students, or how do these come about?
So this is teacher observation. So a lot of these is, when they're during purposeful play, the teacher will be observing and taking notes. When they're in different centers, they'll observe and take notes. When they go out to recess, so it's teacher observation. It's not a formal assessment. I mean, it's formal in the sense that there's a continuum that they can look and kind of see where they are developmentally, but it is the teacher watching and taking the notes on that and giving an overall score.
Well, we love coming to the preschool. Yeah, it's our favorite place to visit. We got to see a lot of the gestures, a lot of the posters. We learned a song. We learned about opposites. Yeah, it was a great visit, and you and your staff do such a good job caring for the students and each and every one of them, preparing them for school. So thank you so much for all that work that you do.
Thank you.
I do want to share a bit of data. It's about the ESD in our region, and this might be new for Director Fote, and the data certainly will be new for the other two directors as well. But the Othello School District, last year we had 44 migrant kinder students. Oh, okay. Pasco had 42, which might surprise you a little bit, right? Kennewick had 84. So the number of kids who came in kinder ready in that migrant grouping, Othello had the highest percentage. Almost 40% of our kids, migrant students, were ready for kinder. And they've shared with you that those are the students, that 30 million word gap is real for them. We were the highest performing in our region. Richland was higher than us, but they only have 11 migrant kids, and I'm not sure Spanish is their language. But then here's I think the rest of the story that's important to tell, which is now they track migrant students as they move through our system, third through 8th grade when they take the Smarter Balanced Assessment, and then in 10th grade when they take it again. And on last year's assessment, 34% of Richland's students passed. Migrant students passed those assessments across all those grades. They were the highest, and Othello was 32. We were just below them. So that persistence of things that happen in our, I think it's an example and evidence of if we can get them a good start, we're doing really well compared to our region. The last one is around math, because I know Director Pruneda has asked us about that before. When you look at math in 3 through 8, and then in 10th grade for migrant students, Othello last year was the highest. The only one that was close to us was Prescott, and that school district no longer exists. It was so small. So Othello, we doubled up Kennewick, we doubled up Pasco, we beat Richland by about 10. So some really good things happening for kids who don't have those language skills when they arrive here in our preschool, but it also persists through our elementary and middle school. So really exciting information for folks who do that work every day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again to the preschool for being here today. Okay. We'll move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment scheduled for today? No? None? Okay. Now we go to the board self-assessment of the meeting. What? Oh, was that before this? Including upcoming events. So February 13th through 17th, there's no school for midwinter break. Then another board meeting on February 23rd and on March 9th. And then our next board site visit will be at Hiawatha on March 16th. Any other upcoming events we can think of? Okay.
Pete mentioned the basketball games for the kids.
Yes, upcoming sporting events. All right. Okay, now on to the board self-assessment of the meeting. Yeah, it's always unfortunate to not have the entire board here, but thank you for those of you that were here.
Yeah, loved seeing the wrestling team and just all the work that they put in, and seeing just the legacy of our wrestlers.
I was trying not to be biased for the preschool, but my son goes there, and so I get to see them every morning when I drop him off, and you guys are amazing. Your staff is amazing, and thank you for everything that you do for those little guys. It's funny how you guys can coordinate. So many of us grown-up parents that already have an agenda to get to her in the morning, and you get our kids on and off, so thank you so much.
Want to congratulate our cheer team. I mean, I think you were a little hard on yourself, but kudos to you guys. It was really good.
Thank you.
A reminder to everyone that the ballots are due tomorrow. Has everyone got their ballots in? You?
I didn't get mine in.
Oh,
They've already been filled out. I just got to drop them off.
all right, we'll follow up with you. All the rest of you,
Sister
all got
Amy
your
already
ballots
called
in?
me
Okay.
I put it in my Facebook story to go vote.
Okay, anything else for self-assessment? Okay, we are going to adjourn into executive session for 30 minutes to discuss the performance of a public employee and the sale or lease of real estate. Thank you for being here. The meeting is adjourned.